Have you ever wondered why some things float and others sink? It seems like a simple question, but the answer lies in a fundamental concept of physics known as buoyancy. Now picture a chunk of wood dropped into a pool. Does it sink to the bottom? No, it floats. But what about a rock of the same size? That sinks immediately. This difference in behavior is all due to buoyancy. To understand buoyancy, we first need to understand density. Density is essentially how much stuff or mass is packed into a particular space. Think of it as a party. A denser object is like a packed party with many people in a small room, while a less dense object is like a quiet gathering with few people in a large room. So what happens when we toss an object, say a party-goer, into a pool of water? That object displaces or pushes aside an amount of water equal to its own volume, just like how a new arrival at a party might push through the crowd to find a place to stand. This is known as displacement. Now, the displaced water or fluid isn't too happy about being pushed aside. It responds by exerting an upward force on the object, trying to fill the void that's been created. This upward push is what we call the buoyant force. The real magic of buoyancy happens when we look at the balance of forces. Every object has a weight, a downward force due to gravity. But now there's also the buoyant force, an upward push from the displaced fluid. If these two forces are equal, the object will neither sink nor float. It will simply hover in equilibrium. But if the buoyant force is stronger than the object's weight, then it floats. Conversely, if the object's weight is stronger than the buoyant force, it sinks. So in essence, the reason things float or sink comes down to buoyancy. An object will float if it's less dense than the fluid it's in, because the buoyant force created by the displaced fluid can counteract the object's weight. But if the object is denser than the fluid, its weight overpowers the buoyant force and it sinks. And this principle applies to any object in any fluid, whether it's a ship in the sea or a balloon in the air. So the next time you see something floating or sinking, remember it's all about the party. The density and the buoyant force. That's the magic of buoyancy.